Let's talk about how the summer transfer window helped or didn't help some of these CONCACAF national teams. Now, before we begin, I want you guys to let me know in the comments down below who had a really good transfer window in your opinion and who had a really bad one. Gentlemen, let's start with the really bad one, or at least one of the worst ones. I'm going to kick it off by saying Mexico. Right,
Yeah.
Mexico was a net negative overall for the moves that were made. And it's not like we had like 3 or 4 transfers and some of them were bad or whatnot. No, these were all pretty good transfers for some good players, with the best one being Edson Alvarez going to Fenerbahce.
Don't
How do you guys feel
remind me,
about
bro.
Mexico's transfer window?
Not great. I know we had like
Dog
Montiel
shit.
like tempted to go, but then didn't end up going because the whole thing we talked about in that one episode. So like, I just think overall it was like too many promises that we were hoping for, or not promises, but like hopeful positive moves, and it just didn't turn out that way. And like you said, the best I could argue is Alvarez going to Fenerbahce for game time and for consistency at a club level. But otherwise, like there's not much to highlight, not much to say that it's moving forward the Mexican players or even the national team to that extent. So yeah, I don't got much positive to say about it, to be honest.
I mean, one of the best transfers is Mateo Chavez to Alkmaar. Like, that's not a great look overall for the
Well,
transfer
that
window.
happened like
Yeah.
right at the beginning of the window too, before the
I mean,
the
Yeah, that
World
was
Cup
even
really
like
yeah.
before,
started. So I don't
technically.
even really
Yeah.
count that. I think it's a lot of misses. I think it's a lot of like what if scenarios of players deciding. In my particular is Marcelo Ruiz. I think he really fumbled the bag on that one in terms of not wanting to go to the championship and saying no at the last second. I think also Mora, getting a look at Real Madrid, I think that's promising. Like obviously he's only 16, so he's got plenty of time. So that's fine by me in my books. But just to have that presence is nice. But I think it's a lot of hope and then not a lot of things actually happening. It's the hope that kills you, I guess. So out of all the
Yeah.
teams in CONCACAF, I think this is probably the worst one because there's a lot of Liga MX transfers, that's for sure. But who gives a shit about those?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of disappointing because especially after the Gold Cup, there was a lot of players that had very good performances, and you thought that it would lead to some important transfers, especially the teams that played in the Club World Cup, but nothing really came of it, unfortunately. So they're lacking in that department.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's just I don't want to say broken promises because, promises, but like so many good moves could have happened this summer that coincided with Mateo Chavez's move, right? You could have had Marcelo Ruiz moving over to Europe, or even Palmeiras was an option at one point. Now, I've heard that was a fake offer, but, Marcelo Ruiz had a lot of suitors, could have very easily moved. We could have seen Mora move. We could have seen Montiel move. All 3 of these players, who are the future of that Mexican midfield, of the Mexican national team in general, could have gotten a move elsewhere for better. I don't want to say better game time, but a better opportunity, better experience under some top tier leagues and teams and whatnot, and they just didn't. That really rubs me the wrong way, and I wish we saw a little more ambition from Mexico in this window. But this seems to be the case pretty consistently, is that they just are not. Now, Edson Alvarez to Fenerbahce, like that is one of the more positive moves, yet still is not that positive of a move, at least in hindsight now as well. Like at the time, I really looked forward to that move. And at the time, they were still in Champions League qualification. Jose Mourinho was still going to be the one training these players every single day. Now, both of those things are not true anymore. And although Edson Alvarez is going to be around some fantastic players at Fenerbahce, is Turkey the right environment? I guess it remains to be seen, but I would have preferred him to go to a Dortmund who are interested in him,
He
and
did
Inter
struggle a
Milan
little
who were
bit
interested
in
in
his
him.
debut.
Yes,
I saw
and
the tape. He struggled a lot.
yeah, and it could get better, but even a lot of Fenerbahce fans were saying like he's absolute shit, like on Twitter and whatnot. So I don't know. It remains to be seen how good of a move is going to be. But looking forward, I'm not the most hopeful. But Mexico definitely had a pretty disappointing. Although Mateo Chavez to Alkmaar, I really liked it, and he started very well over there in the Netherlands. So that is a big positive for this team, especially because he will certainly be the starting left back for the foreseeable future for this team.
Don't
Once
say that.
Scarlo decides to, I mean,
Oh yeah,
he
there you
should
go.
be. He should be once they decide that Garrett can fuck off and they're not playing him past his prime 3, 4,
We
5
thought
years
that in
later.
2018, but
Yeah, I
it's
know.
2025.
Yeah. So overall, not a good one. Let's talk about another team who I think was really good. In fact, I think Canada had a spectacular transfer window overall, and one that's going to go generally unnoticed amongst a lot of people around the world. But let me just mention some good moves for them. So Jonathan David made the jump from Lille to Juve in the Serie A. Tejan Buchanan is with Villarreal for officially, and he has started fantastic in La Liga for them. Ishmael Kone moves to Sassuolo, finally gets some game time. Tani Oluwase also moves to Villarreal from Minnesota in MLS. Now, I will have some comments about him, but we will go into it later. Even players like Derek Cornelius moving to Rangers going to get some game time. I think Daniel Jefferson to Preston's good. I think, obviously, Saliba was one of the earlier ones moving to Anderlecht. That is a good move for a potential starter in the midfield for Canada in the future. And Kyle Larin, too. I think Kyle Larin deserves flowers for his move because it was time for him to get out of Mallorca in La Liga. He moved to Feyenoord, which is a striker's paradise often. I think it was a good move. Canada had a great transfer window for the national team. How do you guys feel about it?
I like it. It's good. I'm a little iffy on David to Juventus just because I think Juventus are they're still figuring themselves out. So, and we've seen a lot of players move to Juve and not have the best time. So I'll be honest, I'm a little iffy on that one. But it's still a big move for him, and if he rises to the occasion, even better. I think we were talking beforehand in the video about the two Canadian players to Villarreal, Buchanan and Oluwase, and I think that's going to be fun. And hope they come good and they show off well. And like you said, Buchanan already started off well, and so overall, good moves. Nothing too negative in my opinion. So I can't at least from the top ones. So I can't complain.
I mean, yeah, Jonathan David, goal in his debut. Obviously, Juventus, I don't know, if we're still out to see if they can perform well, but like Villarreal, I mean, they're flying this season, so like to have two of them on that team, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, there's nothing bad about it. I mean, Jonathan David already off the mark 2 games into the Serie A. It's a lot more positive than their neighbors down south in Mexico. So I got no complaints. It's also huge. A lot of their attacking options are now moving to Europe, and they're hopefully only going to get more game time. Maybe a little sharper, a little fitter too, and maybe add a few things to their game that hopefully can elevate the Canadians' attack. Really, that sometimes can be lacking at times. So I have no complaints. It's only positive things. Now, if they can stay healthy, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, no complaints here. I think it's a positive move going for this World Cup.
I was gonna add, like, the overall feeling from this one is like players getting game time, which is very crucial in that year before the World Cup. You want your players playing, and I feel like a lot of these Canadian players were kind of in weird spots with their team and maybe not getting the game time they should have and whatnot, being disrespected by the club in the case of Derek Cornelius and whatnot, and even Ishmael Kone, or especially Ishmael Kone. So I think a lot of these moves are very, very positive for the fact that they're going to be playing ahead of the World Cup. In particular, Tejan Buchanan, I think, is going to be playing a lot for Villarreal. That's Champions League football. That's La Liga football. Obviously, Jonathan David is going to get a lot of Champions League and Serie A football. Ishmael Kone gets a move to Serie A where he should be playing a lot. Derek Cornelius. A lot of these are really, really good to get them in good form, or at least make them sharp for next year's home host World Cup. That is very, very, very crucial. Another team that I think had a really good transfer window overall was Jamaica, and I wouldn't say that they're the best, and I wouldn't say as good as Canada's, but overall they had a really, really good window. You have the likes of Leon Bailey moving to Roma. Now, yes, he got hurt that first day of training, but that looks to be a fairly promising move. You have Mason Holgate finally getting game time. You have Demarai Gray going to the championship and getting game time. You have players like Trevante Stewart, Cephas, Lembekisa, all moving to clubs that I think are going to give them a really good opportunity to play consistently here. But I don't think Jamaica's should go underlooked here. When talking about solid transfer windows, do you guys have a lot of faith in these players for this Jamaica transfer window?
I mean, I think there's a pattern here since we've covered Jamaica. It's always great club form, or at least, does well, decent in club, respectable, plays a good amount, and then they translate to the national team and it's not good. But I will say Cephas looked very good in their World Cup qualifying game, did score that beautiful solo goal, kind of
It's a
sort of
great
defending.
run, yeah.
Great run, just shocking defending at the same time, but can't take away anything from it. It was a beautiful goal, and you could attribute to his club form because we saw moments in the Gold Cup of Cephas where he had some moments of promise, and I think certain players need to carry some weight, especially they can't rely on Leon Bailey. So, who knows what this season has in store for Leon Bailey because it's already off not to a hot start. It had signs of promise, and then it's gone significantly down since. So, yeah, I think it's just one of those things where these players need to get these game time consistently, and hopefully through these next couple of months for qualifying, they're able to figure shit out. Because especially Demarai Gray, I think Demarai Gray has been very lackluster for the Jamaican national team. You could argue it's because he was moved to Saudi Pro League, but now he's back in England. So I don't know. I have high hopes. I have high hopes for these transfers just to get that game time, just to get that sharpness. Because at times you could tell a lot of these players definitely were not consistent starters in their clubs because it's just simple mistakes. simple mistakes that if you're Matt Sharp, you wouldn't be making, especially in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like I said, a lot of these players, I really enjoy the moves, especially for players like there was a lot of key starters here that got moves to a better situation, which is a net positive overall. I mean, you have in particular Amari Bell, who I think has been really good at Charlton Athletic, and Charlton is genuinely becoming like a Jamaica like B team just because they have so many Jamaica players now. In fact, their third kid is Jamaica inspired. Might need to pick one of those up. You have Isaac Hayden moving to QPR. Hopefully, going to be started over there in the championship. I mean, it's a lot of good players moving to great clubs to get a lot of good game time that are like similar and adjacent to a lot of like USA players' moves where they go to the championship and whatnot. They go to some, top division leagues throughout Europe, maybe not the big five, but get some good opportunities, like I said, in the championship, in the Serie A, in Russia, in Israel, things like that. Really, really good overall. That I hope really lets them get it going before that World Cup. If they still make it, obviously we don't know if they're going to make it. I think for qualifying purposes too, going into every single month having qualifiers, we need a lot of these players playing week in and week out. And that is where I think Jamaica excelled in this window. But I mentioned it already. USA, I think that is the consensus best CONCACAF transfer window.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
No, they had some moves.
Yeah.
USA had some top tier moves, and I'll just name a few off the top of my head. If you disagree with us, let us know in the comments down below, or if you agree with us as well. But some of these moves have been absolutely fantastic for a lot of these players. Obviously, Malik Tillman moving to Bayer Leverkusen. Despite the situation they're in right now, it's still hopefully going to be a good move. Benny Cardoso moving from Betis over to Atletico Madrid, which is a big bummer for me, but for him, absolutely fantastic. Yunus Musa going to Atalanta. You got Timothy Weah going to Marseille, Damien Downs, Southampton. Matt Turner's there. Jackson's there. But besides them two, Giovanni Reina with a positive move to Mönchengladbach, even though he's crap. Ajiman with a positive move to Derby County. Kuramashi moves to Parma and Serie A. There's just a lot of good overall moves. And I think for when it comes to players that are going to be involved with the national team, you should feel very good about this transfer window. Regardless of where the USA is right now, this is still very, very good. Joaquin, how do you feel about the USA's?
I mean, yeah, it's great. Like you said, Tillman, now the second most expensive American in transfer history. So that's obviously a good sign for them. Getting better players, bigger transfers. I mean, almost all of the big transfers were to Europe. Like Damon Downs, even as well to Championship. Like all these players getting better game time in bigger leagues. So I think it's a net positive overall.
Also, I think it's one of those things where it's like these players need to play because clearly they're not getting called up to the national team. So they need to at least have some form going into this World Cup because they're eventually going to get called up. It's a matter of, okay, will they actually, be able to play? So it just kind of depends when that call up is. Because at the moment, it looks like, the next 9 months, some of these guys, especially like Johnny Cardoso, like Tillman, aren't going to get called up just based on how Poch is calling up his team. So that's going to be interesting to see. But yes, it's good moves for a lot of these guys on individual levels. Because I think a lot of these guys do struggle when they come to the United States to play for the U.S. men's national team. So no complaints for me, though. Happy days for me.
I mean, obviously there were some negative moves too. Like Paxton was a very, in my opinion, one done in poor taste to Colorado Rapids. Matt Turner going back to New England Revolution MLS. You can look at those positively if you want, but in general, the rest were fairly positive. Diego, how do you feel about USA's transfer window?
I like it. I think it's good. I like some of those moves. I feel like that this is now, these moves are good. They got the good moves. Now it's up to the players to show what they're made of at these clubs. And, I think we all know not all of these are going to be working out because it's never like that. There's always some players that just don't meet just doesn't work out for whatever reason, whether it's the player's fault, the club's fault, or both. It's going to be a problem for some people. So the question is which players work out, and you want them to be the the right ones for Tillman and for Cardoso. I really like Damien Downs Southampton. I think that could be really good for him. So I just want them to work out and do well, but unfortunately, not all of them will. So figuring out that hopefully the right ones do work out, and we get some confidence boosting moves that really kind of move these players onto the next points of their career, and then they don't take a step backwards after this, because I feel like sometimes we see that too often, especially with CONCACAF players. To be honest, they make that step backwards a little too often. So hopefully they don't do that too much this time around.
Yeah, well, plenty of CONCACAF. I mean, in general, this window I think was very positive for CONCACAF as a whole, and really to push the Confederation and the region out into the world, I think was a really, really good window for it, and is a sign that CONCACAF is getting better overall. Now, you can measure that however you want, but obviously, individually, these players are getting better, and we're seeing more and more moves to top class clubs around the world playing in top class competitions. I think overall, net positive, regardless of how bad Mexico's was. You still have Mexican in Turkey, a high profile Mexican in Turkey that brings, looks and eyes to that region as well. Overall, just a good one for CONCACAF, which we don't say or see often anymore. At one point, we weren't seeing often, but now we have consistent enough moves where we can have a whole video talking about them moving to Europe. I think that is very good overall. And I'm very excited to see what next year has entailed, because we could see the likes of Mora making a big move when it comes to, his World Cup performances and whatnot. A lot of Americans, Canadians getting moves that maybe they deserved by having a good season, and whatnot. So eyes are on that one, obviously, in the future. But I want you guys to comment down below, if you haven't already, which team you thought had the worst and the best transfer window here in summer of 2025. Otherwise, that's going to be it from us, guys. We're obviously going to have more CONCACAF specific, transfer specific videos coming out for you in the future. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already and turn notifications on for those. Otherwise, my name has been Elijah. This was Diego Joaquin and Andres per usual. We'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.